Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your dear hosts.
I am John.
And I am CC. And when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we've got you covered. Buckle up, buckwild buckaroos. This episode is gonna go feral. Because today we ponder the very important questions. What is deer? How is deer? And most importantly, why is deer? The answers to all these questions and more will maybe, probably not, most definitely not be delivered in our review of My Deer Friend Nokotan. For all that insanity, we have some premieres to talk about in the sneak peek. So grab your favorite crackers suited for consumption by your closest wild animal of choice, grab those multi-purpose antlers squeaky clean so they are ready for combat, and definitely don't pause the pod. We'll be right back. Alright, here we are in the sneak peek, and as usual, we checked out a couple of premieres, this time, of course, from Fall Season, Anime Fall Season 2024. And we have our three categories for first-time listeners. These are the Nopes, the Maybes, and the Keepers. The Nopes, the shows that we checked out but are not gonna watch any longer. The Maybes, shows that have piqued our interest, but we are not entirely sure about yet if we want to stick with them. And then, of course, the Keepers shows that we are pretty sure that we are going to keep watching. So I'm going to start today because I think I have a couple more maybes at least than John. Maybe. We'll see. First one.
Maybe.
Baby. Hey.
Watch out, we're going to start sounding like an Oasis song over here.
Well, as long as we don't try to hate and beat each other up. We'll see. Anyway. So, the first maybe is bordering on a nope for me, and that is Trillion Game. And that is about a computer nerd and an eloquent hype/con man who embark on a journey to become the world's most selfish man and earn $1 trillion. Fun concept in theory, I guess. Like, we have this introverted hacker, Manabu, and this extroverted charming guy, Haru, who happen to help each other out of a pinch one night and become friends. And Manabu has a trouble landing a job in IT due to his bad interview skills, and Haru would rather own the company than working for it.
Both of those are moods.
Absolutely. So, and then there's also the female heir to the Dragon Bank IT company who recognizes their potential and is thrown into the mix of this. And the journey starts from there. So far, so good. Problem is, I'm not super comfortable with shows that relish in the glorification of peak capitalism. And if a show starts with rattling of Google, Amazon, and Microsoft as the objects of desire, I'll immediately hear these loud sirens blaring in my mind. Wee, warning, dipshits approaching, warning, dipshits approaching. And Haru is a peak dipshit. The show paints him as a compulsive liar and but also a softie with a big heart at the same time. And that paired with the "if I had $1 trillion, my life would be perfect" mission statement of the show has me a bit worried.
No, this sounds fine. Don't worry about it.
I mean, it could be fun. I think we had a similar show a couple of seasons ago that had this asshole millionaire Bruce Wayne type as one of the two main characters. And that on the surface was also about money is the best, yo. Didn't stick long enough with that show to find out if it subverted that initial statement either. And I get the feeling Trillion Game will be wishy-washy on that too. As someone who thinks trillionaires or even billionaires shouldn't be allowed to exist, I can't root for these guys, even if they are kind of sympathetic to an extent. We'll see. Like I said,
you know what I say? Eat the rich.
Sure, yeah. I mean, like I said, the setup is kind of interesting, but unless the show gives me a clear indicator that it will turn into a story that is about fucking over rich people in the next few episodes, I doubt I'll stick with it. Plus, the character designs are butt fugly, which doesn't help. Jesus, I haven't seen such an ugly show in such a long time. So maybe not since initial D. But yeah, that is my first maybe, but probably a nope. So yeah, John, what is your first maybe?
My first maybe also dives into the world of business, but it's a different kind of business. It's the business of magical girls.
Ah, yes, the most important business.
Yes, and that show is Magilumiere, Magical Girls Incorporated. So basically, it's all about this girl, Kana Sakuragi, who's fresh out of college and she can't find a job. And God, that's another mood, man.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a world where magical girls are a service that you can hire to take care of things for you.
Okay.
And it turns out that around the city there are these creatures called kai that need to be taken care of, and they come in different shapes and sizes and strengths and grades and whatnot and that sort of thing. And when Kana is in the middle of a job interview at this high-profile finance company, and they have to call in, they need to call in the quickest, the cheapest magical girl they can. So they call in this. So they have to call in, the services of this company, Magilumiere. And this girl, Hitomi, comes out to help them, and she is like very gung-ho, very, all about her job, but she has so the kind of magical girl this is sort of like, if you're familiar, I think I've spoken about it before, with how like Magical Girl Nanoha does its portrayal of magic, where it's sort of like a bit more techy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember saying that.
Yeah, and she's trying to fight off this monster, but she has the wrong ammunition loaded into her device, which is, of course, called a broom. And Kana sort of recognizes that because she's like, wait a minute, I don't exactly know how this device works that she's using, but I've seen this before, so maybe I can help out. So she helps Hitomi out. And, she gets dragged into this as a civilian. And the people who are interviewing her are like, you don't have to do this, right? And best line in the first episode is she turns around and says very matter-of-factly, I didn't want this job anyway. And it's like, whoa! Oh, that's so good! Oh, man. So
very satisfying.
It's really good. So basically, on the other side, Hitomi and the other people at Magilumiere are like, well, we're running low on help. We need to hire more people. And after seeing how helpful after Hitomi sees how helpful Kana is in this situation, she drags her back and says, we got our new recruit.
Nice. I guess.
And she gets a job there, basically interning as a magical girl. And oh boy, the crew there is a bunch of dummies too, because one of them is like, he's the finance guy and he's trying to justify the use of, all of their stuff. He's like, well, you have an old model broom, but you're going to have to hold on to it. There's this green-haired kid who's the techie guy, and he's out there. And then there's the boss, who is this older guy who's cosplaying as a magical girl in a pink frilly dress. And it's like, okay, all right, you're living your best life. You're getting into character. And this show is just really silly, and it seems like it doesn't take itself very seriously. But I like the idea behind it, so I'm definitely willing to stick around and see how it goes. One of the better animated looking JC staff shows too, so fingers crossed it'll stay that way.
So why is that a maybe and not a keeper? Because it sounds like you're pretty enthusiastic about it.
I'm not sure. I want to see where it goes.
Okay.
Because sometimes some shows are like, yeah, sure, okay, but some of them like,
okay, impressive first episode, but you're not entirely sure if it will keep that going.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, that sounds promising.
Oh yeah, I mean, it sounds good on its face. I'm willing to see where it goes.
Yes.
So what do you got next?
I don't have a segue from face to arms. But there it is. So that's my next maybe. And I think that's one you checked out as well because you linked me the OP. Mechanical Arms.
Yeah, Mecha-Ude seems pretty neat
Mecha-Ude.
too.
Yeah. So, it's about a boy named Hikaru who has trouble being proactive and lacking courage to take first steps in more ways than one. And he stumbles over a weapon called a Mecha-Ude that attaches itself to the hood of his hoodie for some reason. A weird choice for like a tech alien thingy to attach itself, but okay. And now he's hunted by two organizations who want it for themselves. One maybe good, one probably bad. Can't be quite sure. Maybe that gets also turned on its head later on. It's pretty standard action stuff with somewhat anthropomorphic body creatures. So something like Digimon, only with bionic arms. All
right, chill out, Spencer.
But animation is good so far. And Alma, the mechanical arm that attaches itself to Hikaru's hoodie, is pretty adorable. Like
he's great.
He's very cute. Like he's a very, very sad little arm creature that just wants to be, to help out and to have a friend and everything. It's very cute. So it's really, really fun so far. The action is pretty good. Hiroyuki Sawano is doing the soundtrack and delivering stellar beats as usual. So that it's got that going for it. And I like that in the first episode, we have this girl from the other organization that is trying to just speak with Hikaru and Alma, but doesn't work out. And she has like these two Mecha-Ude that attached to her legs that seems to have independent thoughts and always argue with each other. And I like that a lot as well.
Until Aki is getting increasingly frustrated as time goes on.
Yes.
Especially in the second episode. Oh boy.
I haven't seen that yet, but understandable. It's just, and like I said, we have these two industries. We have Kagami Industries who seem to consider Mecha-Ude as just a tool and something to be used. And then we have the other ARMS organization who maybe wants to liberate them, but also the chief of them might be a bit shady. We'll see. This seems like very low-key standard action stuff, like I said, and probably I doubt it will have many surprises, but so far it seems a very fun stuff.
I found this show interesting because I was doing some reading about it. It started off as a Kickstarter project. And
all right, I think I remember that.
Yeah, and the pilot was crowdfunded and released in 2018, I think. And there was like, you can go on YouTube and watch the pilot for free. And I guess there was actually a dub of it released the next day. That I haven't checked out. But then, companies came on and went to the studio, Tri-F, and were like, here's some money, make your dream real, which that's cool. It's cool to see it came from like basically nothing. And now it's a full production going on. So I'm always there for the underdog story when it comes to either the show itself or its production. So I think this is really neat to read about its history and see where it's coming from and hopefully where it's going.
I mean, at least in terms of in concepts and everything, it's very merchandisable and marketable to kids and everything. So I could assume that it is successful.
Maybe that's what Pony Canyon saw in it, but
yeah, maybe
I don't want to be super cynical right now.
No. I don't mean in terms of what the original intent of the creators is, but in terms of it having some staying power and being successful enough in terms of how much money it makes that it maybe will be one of the bigger hits in next time. Who knows?
Maybe. I mean, I hope so. I think this has a lot of promise to it.
Yeah, I feel like this has action figure promise, and you could even do the Mecha-Ude thing as a separate thing, right? That you could just have kids play with, and put in on their clothes or whatever with some kind of apparatus or whatever. So yeah, I can just see some merchandising opportunity that's there that might keep that thing going for a while. We'll see. Interesting. Also, could be a potential game. I see some beat 'em up potential there as well. So we'll see. Interesting. John, what is your next maybe?
My next maybe is a return for a show that aired a very long time ago, and now it's apparently back What could I be talking about? It's the remake of Ranma half.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we talked about this in a bit in our last episode.
Yes, so it's a remake of a show from 1989. And, it's one of those that I always sort of knew existed, but never went back to watch. I wonder just how watchable the 80s version is. But, like I said, am willing to check this out, mostly from an academic standpoint, as academic as you can watch anime, the way I did Urusei Yatsura, just to see what's going on with it. I will say, from the first couple episodes, it's really pretty. It's got probably the last living remnants of Mappa who are chained to their desks and starving, working on it.
Yay.
But the first couple episodes looked really great, and it definitely has the same style that Urusei Yatsura had, because that makes sense. But the action sequences are really well executed, and it's just all around pretty goofy, as you would expect. But it doesn't, from the first couple episodes, it doesn't seem like they're doing the whole gender switching thing like super gross or anything.
I mean, the old show also didn't really do that, aside from, like I said, there was a lot of nudity.
But yeah, that doesn't seem to be in there quite yet either, but there's plenty of time for that to change.
No, I don't think they will put that in there. I don't think this is about easing viewers into the potential of nudity in this. They're just gonna take it out, because I don't even remember what was the last normal airtime anime TV show that had a lot of nudity in it. So these times are past and gone, I think, in movies and stuff like that, and maybe Netflix shows you might still see it, but stuff that it probably airs on Japanese TV, I don't know if that happens anymore, at least when it runs in a specific time slot. And the old show had that, and I saw some screenshots. They even took out Ranma's ass, so at least in a bath. Some people will probably complain about that. I don't give a shit. It's just something.
The new Ranma is woke.
Hey, spoilers, Ranma always was kind of woke.
Yeah,
it's technically one of the trans persons.
Yeah, I was going to say, from the themes, it seems pretty self-evident, but what do I know?
Yeah.
I will say it may have crossed over to the dark side a little bit, because I'm actually watching it on Netflix. However, I ain't spending my own money, because my sister so very generously gifted my parents a Netflix subscription, and I'm just coasting off of that.
That's the way to do it. I mean, this is how we all were doing it until Netflix did some, IP location nonsense, and now you can't share it with your buddies anymore who live a couple of streets away or a whole city away. So,
but more to the point. This version of Ranma seems pretty cool so far. I want to see what they do and how it go.
Yeah, seems fun. I said why I wasn't gonna watch it last episode, and I'm gonna stick to that. But I enjoyed the old show when I watched it back in the day, at least for a while, until the jokes got a bit too samey for me. But there was a lot of fun stuff in there. Very dynamic show, and I assume the new one will be as well. And it looks very colorful and stylish. So yeah, fun times. Yeah. Enjoy.
Yeah, I don't know if they did this with the original, but they are leaning into. Yeah, can you tell this was a manga, because they have a whole bunch of like the big onomatopoeia on the screen for different sound effects, and sometimes they have like the crosshatch dithered coloring on some scenes, so they're leaning into, hey, this was a comic, did you know? You know that
seems like a wise choice, especially since there was already a very prominent anime adaptation that now it needs to not distance itself from that, but separate itself in a way where it can stand out. And one thing to do that, of course, is to be like, hey, this is more accurate to what the actual manga was, and the way we show that visually is in the way you just described. So yeah, that makes total sense.
It's really neat. Like they kind of like do it in brief flashes here and there, so it works really well, I think.
Cool. All right.
So, what do you got?
One that you probably also checked out, Dun Dun Dun.
I didn't actually.
You did not? Oh, interesting. I thought
you
talked about the OP, I think.
I mean, one of our friends linked it in Discord, and I watched it. I was like, "This is neat," but I read about the premise. I was like, I don't know if this is for me. And with spoiler alert, next time it's my turn, I'm going to rapid fire a whole bunch of stuff that are returning shows. So, I have enough to watch.
Okay, well, there you go. But yeah, this is the big profile Shonen Jump show that is coming on this season, I would say, aside from the thing that we're going to talk about at the end of the Keepers. But, that thing has been on my radar for a while because it was brought up by Jeff Thu multiple times in some of his videos, and one of the more unusual shonen action shows out there. So I was like, okay, interested. And then the adaptation was picked up by Science Saru, so Masaki Yuasa studio. And they always deliver interesting stuff for people who need a refresher. We reviewed of them Keeper Hand of Eizouken and Devilman Crybaby, but they also recently did the newest Scott Pilgrim cartoon. And all their design work is pretty cartoony and out there. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is at least visually going to be pretty distinctive and interesting. And I assume wacky. So I'm looking forward to this. And yeah, that's what I got. This is a super wacky show. Like the OP right off the bat promised us creepy nuts. So that happens, and then we are immediately introduced to our two main characters. The first is Ayase. She gets dumped by her boyfriend because she's broke and doesn't want to put out. Well, he has to deal with that, but apparently he's a big piece of shit, and that's why he dumps her. And she has a bit of an aggressive, confronting nature. Her reaction to this is she immediately wants to kick him in the head. Doesn't work out because he can block it, apparently, but she at least tries. And when something annoys her, she's like, I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna address that, which is, I think, a good characteristic. But that sometimes gets her also into hot water. And someone else in her school is experiencing both sides of that part of her personality is a lone otaku sitting in the classroom being made fun of by his classmates, and just Ayase is just, fuck, I got dumped, and walks past the class, sees that they are throwing paper balls at him, and she's just annoyed, walks into the classroom, sits next to him, and gives the bullies just this glare. Like this, you want to keep going, guys? You really want to keep going with this shit? And they immediately stop. It's such a fucking, perfect introduction scene, and immediately makes you sympathetic to this character. It's like, oh my god, she's badass. I love her. And the way she stands up to those bullies, and it's great. So, and of course, it seems like the lone otaku that she protects gets the partially wrong impression from that, because he thinks she did that because she's just like him and she's interested in the occult. Like he is. Oh boy. And he just goes after her and just drones on her. It's like, hey, look at this shit in my magazine about the UFO abductions and everything. And she's just like, Ugh. Unlike him, she doesn't believe in aliens. And unlike her, he doesn't believe in ghosts. So when they dare each other to prove the existence of either, she, of course, gets almost abducted by aliens and he gets possessed by a ghost. As these things go. So
that seems normal.
Yes. So it's a super energetic, great looking show. Science Saru, as usual, on point when it comes to hyper expressive faces and body animation. For some, this might be too cartoony when it comes to anime, but I love it. I think it looks fucking great. The story is wacky as all hell and has some definite Mob Psycho 100 vibes in the best way possible. Though instead of broccoli, we have a focus on bananas. like I said, the two mains are instantly likable, especially in their interactions with each other. And dare I say it, John, this might turn out to be a rom-com that is actually going somewhere.
What?
Preposterous, I know, but the setup and considering how the first episode ends, which I don't want to give away, makes it seem more likely than in other Shonen Jump action shows. So, wow. Yes, that is very promising. Pretty much the only thing I didn't like in the first episode is the alien abduction stuff being too rapey for my taste. They're like, the aliens have like these robo-scorpion dicks. Those were absolutely not necessary. I don't know why anime still has such a problem with grasping that sexual assault has a very low success rate when it comes to being a hilarious punchline, especially these days.
Fan service.
Maybe Shonen Jump didn't get the memo. There's inoffensive fan service, but this was the offensive kind.
But you gotta pander to all kinds, I guess.
Do you? But thankfully,
no, but.
But thankfully, that is turned around very quickly. And when I aired my grievances on Twitter, a friend of ours confirmed for me that this is just in the first chapter. And probably so also just in the first episode of this. So let's hope he's right. Good. And this is the only time they go there in this show. Because if all ghosts and aliens in this show turn out to be horny sex offenders, I'm out. Aside from that, definite must-watch of the season, though. But it's still a maybe because I wasn't sure at the point of this, when I wrote this down, when I put this in my list, if, the thing that annoyed me in the first episode was a one-time bit, which apparently it is. Everything else is very promising. I love the two main characters, and judging from what I heard about it, it's going very interesting places, and especially relationship-wise, it's not afraid to commit, which I always really, really appreciate. So, very much looking forward to more of this, and I hope it's going to turn into a keeper, but I'm pretty sure.
Cool.
Yeah, John, what's next on your list?
So like I said, for my keepers, 4 out of 5 of them are returning shows. So I guess I can kind of group them together a little bit in a weird way, because the first grouping, can you guess what the first grouping is?
Isn't there a new Love Live show this season?
Yes.
There we go. So it's going to be Idols.
Yes, correct. The first is Love Live Superstar Season 3.
Yeah, there you go.
So at the end of the previous season, Kanon was supposed to make a trip to Austria and, do some studying of music there. But shenanigans happen, and she's still staying in Japan to help train with one of the girls' rivals, Marguerite. So that's happening.
Judging from the newest Austrian election, that wasn't a bad thing to happen to her, not going to Austria. Sorry, that's beside this point.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, honestly, but oh no.
Spoilers, Nazis. Anyway, keep going.
But yes, so now it's become this thing where Kanon, you weren't going to Austria, so you're going to be training with the rest of us, right? And she's like, well, I would, but I have other plans in mind. And the plan is, to get this girl Marguerite to not be the hard-headed dummy that she is, and maybe try and enjoy music as much as the rest of them, because she's kind of like very selfish about it. And, it's Love Live. It's High School Musical, the anime. And I'll always watch it because on the same note is the second season of the Idolmaster Shiny Colors. And I think I see what they're doing with this show, in that, each season is going to be, or maybe not each entire season, but parts of each season, because I think there's already a third season on the plate as well, is going to be characters that they introduced post the game's launch. So the start of this one deals with these girls from the new unit Stray Light, Mei, Asahi, and Fuyuko. Can't believe I got them all right. Wow. There's a billion girls in Love Live and the Idolmaster, and at this point, trying to keep them all straight is kind of a fool's errand. But I will say that Polygon Pictures is carrying forward the same momentum that they did with the first season. With I know we have had our misgivings about them, but the animation work they're doing is pretty good. Maybe not on the same level as, say, Orange, but the character animations feel mostly like pretty natural, and I applaud them for doing some really good work on it so far. So I'm here to continue watching it to see how they introduce these girls and to see how the animation continues to develop.
Yeah, I mean, hey, the stuff I watch from Polygon Pictures is a bit older. So maybe they improved, maybe they learned. I don't want to doubt it. And I'm always glad if, we have better CG anime studios than just the one. That is, of course, is appreciated. But yeah.
I'd say maybe, the Bandai Namco money helped a little, but I look at the adaptation of Million Live and I say, So between, repeating what I had previously said, between this and Million Live, this is definitely the technically superior of the two.
Okay.
What do you got?
My first keeper is Uzumaki, the anime, nothing to do with Naruto. The anime adaptation.
Rasengan?
Yeah, close enough. The horror version. It's the anime adaptation of one of horror manga author Junji Ito's most famous works. It has already been adapted as a live action movie before, if I remember correctly, but not as an anime yet. And this seems to be an international production in cooperation with Adult Swim, as far as I could garner from the credits. And it's about this small town that becomes infected by the concept of spirals, like they appear in nature and on people, and people become obsessed with them, get haunted by them, and consumed by them. So judging from the first episode, this is about uncovering the mystery behind this from the perspective of two young people directly affected by it through their friends and family. The only other Junji Ito adaptation I saw in recent time was the Junji Ito collection, and that was really bad in terms of quality and not being able to capture the enveloping eerie atmosphere of the manga original. This one, Uzumaki, is much more up to par. The production values are spectacular. First off, it's entirely in black and white, which is very rare and immediately gives it a distinct look that is super close to the manga. A lot of the animation seems to be heavily rotoscope, which makes it stand out even more. It's a really cool look. And this also helps immensely with capturing the unique atmosphere of Ito's manga better. However, I feel the pacing is too quick. It's only 4 episodes, and in the first episode, it already feels like it's rushing from iconic panel to iconic panel from the manga, so it comes across as more of a greatest hits version instead of taking its time to effectively establish its own atmosphere. Maybe that will change in the other 3 episodes, but right now, I definitely feel like I feel like a more relaxed pacing would make it more suitable for the TV show format. But also, because it's so short, it's a surefire keeper because half of the show is already out at this point. I think at the time of this recording, even episode 3. So this is easy to finish up, and I will do so. But yeah, I hope they decrease the intensity and the speed of the pacing a bit, because some of that stuff needs to simmer, and right now it doesn't get the chance to, which is a bit of a shame. And I feel like these kind of stories need sometimes some time to linger on certain moments and so on, which the show doesn't seem to be intent on doing. But yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. And like I said, the style is just so cool. I could totally see a Berserk adaptation in that style, and it would fucking rock. So I hope someone takes notice. We'll see.
So I haven't watched it, but I heard, and I hope this isn't actually the case, but after the first episode, there was apparently a severe drop-off in quality.
Oof, okay. Well, maybe this will one of my hate watch keepers then after a while, but I can only judge from the first episode because that's all I've seen. And first episode is spectacular, aside from the slightly too quick pacing. But yeah, if the second episode is shitty, maybe it will catch itself in the third episode, but also it doesn't have that much, episodes to actually impress anymore. And we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for now it's a keeper. And it's only, like, since it only has 4 episodes, it's probably going to stay that. Doesn't mean that the review is going to be positive, but we'll see what happens. John, what are your next keepers?
I guess these two shows belong together because one is a death game and one started as a death game. TASUKETSU is continuing. It's not really spoilers to say at this point that the characters encountered and fought the Emperor that was taking control of the big nightly surveys that were killing off large parts of people in Japan. And now the Emperor is dead, question mark, maybe? Mm-hmm. And the back half seems to focus on trying to keep up the idea that the Emperor is alive, but, not really keeping the death game going until this one girl who calls herself the Queen starts showing up and saying, hey, what if we sort of just kept this going? And then there's other little wrinkles in there, and I'm not quite sure this back half is as strong as the first half was, but I guess I'll keep going and see what do with it.
Are you sure that it's continuing? Because I don't see it in the end chart fall leftover, so I was a bit surprised.
It's weird because it's not showing on like Anichart. It wasn't showing on Live Chart either at first, but it is continuing.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, because I thought it was, one season as well, and then I looked at Live Chart and I was like, oh no, I'm stupid. It says it's 2 seasons. I completely glossed over it when it started, but it took a couple of weeks off in the summer because of ye old Olympic Games, but that's why its episode count's kind of a couple behind other shows, but it is still going.
Interesting. Okay.
The other one that I guess belongs in this grouping is SAO Alternative Gun Gale Online 2.
Yeah, right. That came back.
And I say it kind of belongs because of where SAO's roots are. This starts off with Karen and her buddies getting into Squad Jam 3, and we're just going full Fortnite where the island that they're fighting on in Gun Gale is slowly getting taken by like the ocean, and there's a big convergence point on the center, and it has to deal with the strategy of eliminating all the other players. And I don't know if Squad Jam 3 is going to be the entire story of this season, but they kind of come out swinging with it. So it's, obviously the big central focus at current. And, I like these characters. I like the setup for it, just because we get to move away from everyone else in this universe for a little while. And how fortunate that it would coincide with the release of the new video game Sword Art Online Fractured Daydream, available now.
Absolute surprise.
I may have played it a little bit, and it's actually kind of fun. Okay.
Well, there's that.
Which it's neat because it mixes the gameplay elements between, like, your standard, sword and board characters that we've, seen from the older series. But you also have characters in there like Len and Fukajiro who come out with their guns, and you play the game like a third-person shooter. So you can play the game how you want, which is neat. But yeah, this is not sponsored. Please sponsor us, Bandai Namco.
Don't, then we have to adhere to certain rules, probably.
Oh God, you're right. But no, GGO 2. I almost forgot that it was going to be a thing, and then when it started, I was like, yeah, I like these characters, and I like seeing them strategize and do this battle royale thing. So I'm here for it. Sure, I'll keep watching it.
All right.
So, what you got?
My last keeper, because we're gonna get to the big one, is also a returning show, and it's the second season of Blue Lock. Blue Lock versus Japan U20. The return of soccer Squid Game. Yes, no, I mean that subtitle I added, but
I mean I get that, but from everything you described the show as, it sure sounds like it.
Yes, absolutely. And if people remember that review, that is one of the sports anime I've watched in recent in recent time that I enjoyed the most. It was a super fun first season, well animated, great characters, super surprising developments and everything, and just completely insane. I loved it. So I, of course, keep watching the second season, and yeah, it hits it off immediately. It starts off where it left off. To keep Blue Lock going, a selection of the best of this experiment have to beat the Japanese U20 soccer team in a match. And to select the best team members, Ego Jinpachi, the creator of this nonsense, came up with another one of his patented special games. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be fun times. And the last season had some surprising eliminations. And so now we see a lot of new faces that step into the spotlight. And assumedly, this will all culminate in a grudge match between one of Blue Lock's star players, Rin, and his brother Sai, who is on the U20 team. So yeah, second season promises to be just as fun as the first one. More larger-than-life characters with flashy designs, over-the-top villains in the form of the bosses of the Japanese football union. It's so dumb, and the show has so much fun with it. I'm very happy to be able to board this nonsense train again, and I'm sure it's gonna be a blast. So yeah, that's gonna be that. John, what is our shared final keeper? What else could it be?
What else could it be other than the return of the king? Mm-hmm. Dragon Ball Daima.
Yes.
So it's not GT.
No, it's not. It's not Super. It's not GT. It's not Z. It's in between, set between Z and Super, actually. So it's not even picking up right after Super before it, actually.
So yeah, this is the story of what I believe Goma is the brother of Dabura.
I'm not sure he's the brother, but he was definitely the one next in line to rule the demon realm next to Dabura. And Dabura was killed by Boo.
So Goma decides, hey, what if I just sort of kick things off a little prematurely, because Dabura surely didn't come back later. No, sir. Mm-mm. He didn't get to go into heaven and be a good guy because he was being taken control of by Babidi. We didn't ignore that. Shut up. That didn't happen. So Goma decides, hey, he and his assistant, Degasu, are watching what is essentially a 9-minute-long recap of the Boo saga.
I mean, the Boo saga has been a while ago, so it's maybe not too bad to have that recap in there, especially since Daima's setup relies so heavily on what happened there.
I will say this, the reanimated Boo saga looks pretty good.
Yes.
But he and Degasu learn of the Earth's Dragon Balls and how they grant 3 wishes and they're so much better than their own Dragon Balls, and there's 7 of them, which is sort of like, what do you mean? What do you mean there's 7 of them? Apparently in the demon realm, there's only 3 Dragon Balls, but they are guarded by these Tamagami, I think they're called, who were created by this like super old Namek that just sort of hangs out there. And you have to defeat the Tamagami to use these Dragon Balls, which Goma and Degasu don't have the strength to do that. So they're like, hey, what if we go to the outside world and use the Earth's Dragon Balls and do some shenaniganry with it? But the warriors on Earth are all really strong. What if we turn them into children? That'll do the trick. Surely there's no downside to this. Until they get to the point where Shenlong is like, how specific is this wish? Give me the details. Which I think is really funny, that because most of the time Shenlong is just like, yeah, okay, here's your wish, get out of here. But Goma is like, all right, fine.
They're all
And
first graders, except for the ones that are already kids. They're gonna be babies.
Jesus Christ.
And I think they also, with their second wish, want to wish for some kind of evil eye amulet thingy or something that apparently makes this very pretty strong. So maybe that's their fallback plan. I don't know.
Yeah, and they don't have a plan for their third wish yet. But Degasu, he really wants a wish,
Do
bro.
some research. Also, his sister figures into that as well. She puts the thought into Goma's head actually that he should do something about these Earthlings, right? Where it's like, in the beginning, he's just like, I'm gonna take over now because Deborah is gone and Babidi is gone and Boo is gone. So I'm a made man. Nobody's standing in my way. And then she's like, well,
you though?
Are you though? Because they're like these strong Earthlings. And if you cause some ruckus, they might, they might not find that cool. And he's like, fuck. So, yeah, they decide to use the Dragon Balls. We also maybe should bring up is that both Degasu and his sister are the siblings of the Supreme Kai. There's a lot of interesting lore in this first episode for Dragon Ball things. It's like, what is happening?
They dropped a lot on us.
Yeah, it's like that, and there's like the Namekians, who are now called Namex for some reason, just like the planet. I thought they were always called Namekians. Since when they're just called Namex? That is new.
Like it was kind of interchangeable.
Okay, I thought always Namekians. But anyway, apparently now they actually managed to explain away why, or now give a proper explanation why Piccolo was the Demon Lord in the beginning phases of Dragon Ball. And we only later found out he was an alien, but the ancestors of the Namex apparently were members or lived in the demon realm. And then they set out and searched their own planet, and that's where the planet Namek comes from. But that's why there's still one Namek guy hanging around in the demon realm, and why Piccolo apparently was declaring himself the Demon King, because he apparently just returned from Namek to or he was still around in the demon realm, but they are the same people. So they're both members of or citizens of the demon realm, but also they searched and made or populated their own planet. Very interesting, all of that shit. It wasn't necessarily necessary to put that in there because Dragon Ball lore is bullshit anyway, because Toriyama was making up all of that shit on the go and didn't remember half of it when he did the later stories. So it doesn't really matter, but it's nice. It's like, hey, they're putting in the extra work to make all of that kind of gel more well together. So that's interesting. I liked the first episode of this a lot. I thought this was really fun, a fun setup. I mean, we'll see what they'll eventually do with this and where this will go, aside from, hey, we want to be adults again. But what's actually going to be Goma's plan? How do Degasu and Arinsu actually figure into that? What is Supreme Kai going to do about his bad siblings? And yeah, I have a feeling that the old Namek is also maybe gonna play a different part later down the road. We'll see.
Yeah, also, apparently Namex can just raise their hand and gather up the Dragon Balls and reactivate them?
Not all of them. I mean, you see Denda's reaction to this, where it's like, what? How can he do that? I think it's just a special thing that particular Namek can do, because he's so old and he's the one who created the demon realm Dragon Ball. So he must be one of the very first Nameks around. And Goma has this one-off comment where it's like, hey, if you do this, I'm gonna prolong your life for another 1,000 years, right? So another 1,000 years. So that guy has been around for a while. So yeah, we'll see. All of this is very interesting, and judging from the first episode, this might be the consistently best-looking DB show of them all, which is what I hope would be the case, because the bittersweet aspect of all of this is, of course, that this will be the last Dragon Ball anything with Akira Toriyama's direct involvement, since he died earlier this year. So I expected this to be an all hands on deck situation, and it looks like Toei is delivering exactly that. So yeah, the hype is real, and here's to one final fun ride steered by the master's influence. I'm looking forward to it a lot. Seems like you are too, John.
Yeah, I'm willing to see where it goes. So hopefully because this first episode was pretty fun. Hopefully it'll stay that way.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, this was just a setup episode, and I like Goma and Degosu as like this team. They got some Pilaf energy going. Like they're not these super evil guys. They're just like these little schemers in the background, but also not that competent. They're just fun. They're just really fun. So I'll see where this goes. And yeah, the only downside to this is since this is set before Super, we won't have some of my favorite characters from Super in this, of course. And it's like, I wish there to be a sequel to Super, actually, more than this. But hey, Toriyama want to do this, so more power to him and to his legacy and everything. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be fun. It's just like, I'm going to miss Beerus. I'm going to miss Whis and, some of the other characters that were introduced in Super and in the movies. And yeah, so hey, and the Super manga is still going, right? So they got enough stories they could adapt from that as well.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll get a Super 2 at eventually. Some point.
Well, that's the thing, right? Once the rights issue and everything has been cleared up, which is of course now being fought out, and it's the ugly side of this, but once that has been cleared, expect like a deluge of new Dragon Ball shit, because I mean they're gonna be respectful probably, or try to be, but GT happened when Toriyama was still around. Can you imagine now that he doesn't have a direct influence anymore, like how much they're gonna try to milk this shit now?
Yeah,
we'll see.
I tend to think of when Steven Hillenburg passed, and he was like, yeah, I don't want SpongeBob to continue on, and look at what Nickelodeon has done with it.
No.
So,
let's see. I mean,
good old corporate hand-wringing comes back to bear.
I mean, I want to believe that Toei will be a bit more respectful to it, but also maybe not. And
also, it makes money.
Oh yeah, Dragon Ball makes so much fucking money. And I mean, people will probably be happy. I mean, a lot of people look forward to this, so me included. So of course I wouldn't mind more Dragon Ball. I just hope they're gonna try to keep the quality of the recent things they put out, they're gonna keep trying to keep the quality level to that of the recent things they put out, because the stuff that came with the new movies and with Super and everything, I really enjoyed. So, and Daima's probably going to be on the same quality level. So I hope after that we get more. If we get more, that we get more of this kind of quality. Would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the big keeper for this season that we're definitely going to keep watching. But we also had some other stuff in there that might have piqued your interest, dear listeners. But with that, we're done with the sneak peek. We're going to move over to our first review from summer season.
So, Dragon Ball is weird and absurd and crazy. And then there's My Deer Friend Nokotan.
Different level.
It's knocking on the door of Pop Team Epic just a little bit.
I'll say.
So, Tarako Koshi is the epitome of perfection. With her peerless beauty, top-notch grades, and position as student council president, her popularity in school is unrivaled. However, she harbors a dark secret. She was a delinquent back in middle school, and this is something she conceals to the best of her abilities. Unfortunately, when she meets the rather mysterious deer girl, Noko Shikanoko, Torako's hidden shame is constantly on the precipice of being exposed due to Shikanoko's rather weird antics. To maintain the reputation she worked so hard for, Torako must go along with Shikanoko's whims, even going so far as to become the president of the newly established Deer Club. all her efforts will be rewarded if she can prevent the menacing doe from accidentally blurting out damaging details about her personal history that will undoubtedly unleash Torako's greatest nightmare. Thank you, MAL Rewrite, for that summary that does not even begin to cover what this show is like.
How could it? Like, how can you? I mean, we're gonna try to make sense of this and convey what
this show is about.
Yeah, but gonna be tough. It's gonna be really tough because yes, this of course is a gag show. We have like 2 or 3 segments in most episodes that each cover like this little mini story. Most of them are unrelated. In fact, I think there are some episodes that feel, in terms of what kind of little story they do, like they could have been at a different part in the season. I think there was one in episode 5 where it's like, this feels like this should have been episode 2 because of how
continuity.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Nobody cares. I know, but it still like popped up for me where it's like, I feel like they are behaving more antagonistic towards each other and haven't, and they haven't found like that of a common footing yet, and she's still trying to find out. And then in other episodes, it's more like, hey, they feel like more of a team. So, but who cares?
I mean, Noko is always trying to get Torako's goat. Here? But yeah, this... okay. So this is based, like you said, on a manga by an artist who only goes by the name Oshio.
How appropriate.
This is their only work, aside from apparently doing some promotional illustrations for Summertime Rendering, which I guess is a pretty good show from everything I've heard, but I've never watched it myself.
I wanted to check that out because it's also apparently like a murder mystery thing, and eventually it's just one of those shows that are on Disney Plus and were not properly advertised, and just nobody watched it because nobody knows that it exists. So I might bring that up in the Quick and the Dead once I've checked it out, but yeah, it's still in my backlog.
This is directed by Masahiko Ota, who has done a lot of like goofy shows in the past, so this is definitely up their alley. Stuff like I talked about Gabriel Dropout briefly. There's other dumb shows in their repertoire, so this is up their alley. This was also brought to us by our good friends at Wit Studio.
Yay. Kind of a bit of a different flavor when compared to Attack on Titan or something like that.
Compared to literally everything else.
Yeah, but although Wit have made it their thing in recent, or since they let go of Attack on Titan, to be unpredictable in terms of what projects they pick up. So this seems kind of now in accordance with their new behavior. So it feels like that is something they would pick up now because it's just so very different. This is probably something for another discussion, but apparently they're working on a remake of that old show Yaiba. Oh, interesting. That's cool.
Right. That's we'll talk about that another time, I guess. But yes, Wit Studio kind of. Yeah, they definitely had their pattern of work, and apparently someone over there woke up one day and said, let's do something else. And that's where we are.
Yeah.
And boy, they sure chose something else to work on. I don't know how to concretely describe what the heck this show is, because it's all over the place. It is a gag manga, and it goes from point A to point Z back to point D real quick. Like there was one episode in particular they were like, "Hey guys, so we didn't have a cohesive plot for this episode, so here's like 13 different like real quick fire shorts. Have fun." And it's like, you know what?
I enjoyed that episode.
Oh, okay, sure. All right.
So you already told us the story setup. Story very much in quotes, in a lot of quotations.
Like they keep to that for maybe one episode, and then they're like, "We're just going to go off in this direction now."
It's basically it's just like a not even slice of life-ish gag comedy, where it's just about, hey, here's this weird deer girl, and here's this former delinquent, now student council president who tries to be, this shiny, sparkly girl who everyone adores. And she's doing her best, and she's putting the work in, and she wants to be admired for it and everything, and she has good grades and all that shit. And just Nokotan dive bombing into her life and making a whole mess of it. And she taking it like a trooper and trying to make the best of it. Like, she's like, okay, now we have a deer club. I'm the president of it, so I'm gonna let it be the best deer club there is. And what that means to me is it's gonna have a very sparkly clubhouse. And that is in the
shed out back.
Yeah, the shed out back, but it's a very pretty shed. And then some other characters come into the story that, or again, throw revenge into that, because he also has a weird sister who is like this siskon yandere. And who...
Yeah, Anko is...
And she demolishes said shed. And then she tries to kill Nokotan because she feels like Nokotan took away her sister from her, like her affection, because now all Torako does is like hang out in the club room and so on. She doesn't come home anymore. But also, Anko has a completely different idea about their relationship than her sister does. So... Mm-hmm. And then later we get another club member, Bashame, who apparently is very much into rice.
Yeah, she wants to have her own rice paddy on the school grounds. Can we talk for a second how her first name is Meme? And that's, her first name is Meme.
Yes, of course. But yeah, she stumbles into that because she apparently collapses in front of the school, and Nokotan saves her with deer crackers, which is also a big theme in the show, deer crackers. Like, deers are very much into these crackers, so they are very prominent in the show. But she saves Bashame, Nokotan saves Bashame with that, and so now that Bashame wants to also become a deer, and wants Nokotan to be her sensei and everything, and thus... the club is complete, and our 4 musket deers are complete, and that's where we go from for the rest of the story. And each episode is just like this small vignette of fucking absurdly weird shit happening to our main character, and the humor is very much of the ilk. Something outrageously absurd happens, and Torako overreacts loudly to it. And that's like 95% of the comedy. The rest is reference humor. So you might say the joke variety is a bit stagnant.
A little bit, but I mean, they try and switch it up a little bit from episode to episode. It doesn't always feel 100% the same.
I mean, if that is your brand of comedy, you'll probably love this. If not, it might become grating very quickly, even though all the characters are pretty cute and endearing, while all being weirdos or idiots at the same time. But, they're sympathetic.
Let's not forget the most important character, the literal ball of antlers.
Yes, the antlers of Nokotan are kind of sentient. They're like their own entity, and they can separate from her body, and it's a whole thing. It's very special. Like the problem is, there is not a real through line in terms of plot or character development or anything that you can talk about in this story. So the only thing we can do is pick out some of the highlights and some of the things that happen in this show and just talk about them, just like the little vignettes that the show has themselves, like the mini stories. And I suggest that's all we can do, and that's what we will do, because trying to find something like a through line in here is really difficult. Although, I gotta give it to the show. The show even recognizes that themselves. They can do foreshadowing and payoff. Because in the second or third episode, Bashame is introduced and she's like, I want to build a rice paddy. And the narrator tells us, look forward to episode 10. That's when the fucking rice paddy is going to come in. And that's what happens. That's what goddamn happens. They pay that off. And I commend them for it.
The narrator is shockingly self-aware, even compared to other shows with, over-the-top narrators, man.
The fourth wall does not exist in this show because it has already been shattered into a million little pieces. Like the characters constantly talk to the narrator. They constantly refer to this being an anime and this being a comedy anime and being like there's this episode, I think it's episode 5, where like a bunch of delinquents attack Torako and Nokotan throws her antlers, and of course there's dynamite in the antlers. And the dynamite blows up the entire school and looks like they're dead, but then they're totally fine in the next scene. And Torako is like, well, thank God this is a stupid gag anime. Otherwise, we'd be dead. Yeah. So that's what you're getting with this. And it's just fun. Like, everyone kind of who watched this, like watched the OP of this, probably knows what they're getting into. We talked about this in our sneak peek, where it's like, there's a Dark Souls
Deer
Dark Souls reference. Right. It's okay, we know what is happening. There's just crazy shit Nokotan sometimes transforms into a Fist of the North Star character for some reason, which is actually acknowledged by Torako. Like, she's like, who are you? when Nokotan does that. Like, sometimes characters just ignore these caricature transformations in other comedy shows. But in this, it's like, no, she actually changes the shape of her body. She looks different, not only to us, but to the characters in the show when she does this. And speaking of the OP, a metal cover songwriter YouTuber that I follow, Little V Mills, did a cover of the OP, and Japan found it, and celebrated him in the comments. And that video, this version, with him dressing up in the sailor suit and singing the little cute girl OP in his death metal voice or whatever, has now 7.2 million views. I think it's the most successful video on his channel.
It's what got him to 1 million subs.
Yes.
Good for you, Little V.
That's a Hollywood story right there. That's a fairy tale. That's how you do it with your rendition of that stupid OP. But yeah. Very fun, and I recommend you watching that video. I will put it in the show notes, of course, so you can check it out yourself. But yeah, so that happens. But yeah, like I said, no fourth wall existing. Constant back and forth between the narrator. The narrator comments every time on what happens in the show in sometimes more sarcastic ways than other times, and also he constantly make clear that they know that this is an anime and this is just a whole big ball of nonsense that they're taking part in. Yeah.
Like the only other narrator in recent years that I feel like has been quite this self-aware was the one in Kaguya-sama.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the dub, dude.
Yeah, so I've heard. Yeah, very much. I mean, there are some gag anime where this is par for the core, especially in dub versions where they even put more of a thing on that. I think Samurai Pizza Cats was like that. I don't know if the narrator was as self-aware in the original as they were in the Western version, but that was definitely in there, and so were the characters. But probably was the same or close enough.
It was probably had the same level of energy.
Yeah. I mean, there's some gag anime that are not as narrator heavy, but this is definitely one of those where that is the case. It's like the narrator constantly gives us interesting facts about Deer, but also about the characters and what they might think or might not think, and what they said or not said. Like, he corrects them. Like, if they say something that actually is not, he gets like, no, that is not true. See episode so-and-so. And yeah, it's weird. It's like these small little mini panels in Marvel comics earlier where you weren't able to keep track of all the storylines, and like, hey, check out episode issue blah 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 of Spider-Man so-and-so to find out more about this. And the narrator
that's a thing that comics do.
Yeah, and the narrator is kind of doing that in this show as well.
I noticed a pattern with the names of the student council members. I don't know if you did as well. Neko Yamada, Tanuki Koji,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of had to look this one up because I don't know as many Japanese animal names, but Tsubame, yeah, is, Tsubame is supposed to be like a swallow, but
Oh.
and I guess to an extent with Bashame, because Basha is a horse-drawn carriage, which is it's a little bit of a stretch, but this show does a lot of stretching.
Yes.
So I'm willing to be like, okay, fine, I'll let you have that one.
Yeah. And I mean, at the central core of all of this is, of course, our little deer girl. And it's hard enough, like, it's impossible to make sense of the entire show when it's already so hard to make sense of Nokotan herself. Like, what is Nokotan? Like, she is like
Nokotan is Nokotan.
Yeah, she can just do whatever. Is Nokotan immortal, or is she just so shitty that she is rejected by the deer god in heaven? Who knows? There's a scene that might give you the idea that it's one or the other. And, we got her obsession with Deer Cracker, of course, is like a running joke. And we have like this
sequence has this facility in Nara where they're making deer crackers, like live action footage.
Yes, a lot of live action in this. We haven't even mentioned the weird CG deer yet. That, of course, is a big part of the show as well and hanging around in a lot of scenes.
They're weird, and yet it feels so right.
Yeah, for this show it does. Like her little...
Any other show, it would be like, what are you doing?
Yeah, her little friend from the zoo that shows up, and Torako mistakes him for Nokotan because it's just a normal deer, and just like, of course, it's her, because why would another deer be here in this club room? Which is a legit assumption, but still, like, have you stepped back a minute and looked at the show that you're in, woman? It's just, okay, but that brings me to another point. Nokotan has antlers. Usually only male deers have antlers, right?
Shut up, don't worry about it.
I think so.
Shut up, don't worry about it.
So even her gender is in flux here. So that's also interesting. It's like, okay, sure.
Something, it takes a boy to be the best girl.
I guess, yes.
It's not clear.
It's absolutely not clear. And the deer cracker stuff neither. Like, why is, like, she does this thing or recites when they have, I think it's in the, where's this episode? Is that with the cafe or something? There's like this thing, why do you eat deer crackers? Because they're in front of me. And that sounds like, to me, like it's a rephrasing of the mountain analogy. Like, why do you climb this mountain? Because it's there. It's like, it just is, and I have to do it. So is that a deer thing? Is that like do all the deers in this prefecture where this is set, do they just is this like a whole big industry with the deer crackers? Because I've never been to Japan, so I wonder, is this a thing? Are deers generally afraid of water bottles, or is that just a Nokotan thing? Why is this even brought up? There's so many questions in this show that are never answered.
I feel like they at one point said the water bottle thing was specific to Nokotan.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Because didn't Torako do that to the deer she thought was Nokotan? Yes, and it didn't work.
But the
deer didn't care.
Yeah, but the question is, why then is that in the show? And why are water bottles... Why is Nokotan afraid of water bottles? Never explained. Don't ask about it. Don't worry about it.
It's because plastic and how it's difficult to recycle and how frightening it is to use. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I said, the humor very much, most of the time, 90%, 95% is like something crazy just happening, something crazy. Nokotan does something crazy. The other characters do something crazy. And Torako / Kostan overreacts to it, like with a loud screamed comment, and that is kind of pretty much the same humor that One Piece is doing, very close to that. And then the other 5%, 10% is reference humor, like, for example, we have in Pop Team Epic. Pop Team Epic is a lot of reference humor.
Mm-hmm.
And As an example for the for the big part or the big type of humor that is happening in the show, there is this episode that's all about. First of all, Torako's private life is suffering because of all of this. Like in the first episode already, she's outed as a virgin in the classroom, and a previous delinquent would like. Everyone's reaction to that is more severe than a goddamn deer girl suddenly walking into the classroom and breaking the door, and like splinters flying everywhere and concrete and everyone getting hit in the head by that shit. But that's actually one of the things that cracked me up the most, like the audience reaction or the lack thereof when something crazy was happening with the Nokotan, and everyone is completely non-phased. Like most of the reactions are like, "Oh, that deer is so cute," and meanwhile, on the other side of things, Torako is like, "What the fuck is happening? What is..." Like, she only has a kind of normal reaction to it. We later get a character that's kind of doing the same thing. I mean, I guess Neko also has a kind of relatable reaction to most of the shit that is happening. But also later we have like the brother of Tsubame or of Haruki? I'm not sure. One of them who is running this cafe, and Nokotan and Torako are guests there, and he can't fulfill Nokotan's needs because, of course, he doesn't have deer crackers on the menu, and that bumps him out. But he also is the first person who kind of reacts normally to a girl with antlers just walking into his cafe. It's like, what the fuck is this? But also he's an idiot, as the narrator tells us.
Well, you know, everyone is in this show.
Yeah. But first narrator is like, "Oh, did we finally find a normal person?" And then the guy says something, and the narrator is like, "Oh, never mind." But yeah, the audience reaction were the most fun thing to me, because it was like, "Oh, this is so adorable." And Torako's like, "What? What are you saying? Look at this shit." And yeah, then we have this game where Anko and Nokotan battle against each other in a knowledge contest about Torako, like what they know about her, and it's like this Jeopardy thing. And she is outed as a plushie lover, wears Schrödinger's bra, and suffers from shoujo manga brain rot, all with accompanying footage that someone recorded. And
where did they get that foot? Okay,
I don't know. Neither Nokotan nor Anko take Torako's privacy into consideration when doing this. And then they get 10 points for every correct answer. And at the end of the fucking contest, like, the scoreboard suddenly has like 9 billion or something, 9 billion points on both of them, their counters. That's amazing.
So either this game went on for a very long time, or if we're playing by Jeopardy rules, there are a lot of daily doubles.
They didn't say anything about bonus, John. No bonuses in there. It was just always 10 points. That was communicated to us by the show. I mean, that doesn't mean anything, but that's what was said. So I must assume that thing went really from the early morning till the end of the day and whatever. And everyone learned about all the little private details of Torako's life. And yeah, that's kind of the part, the big bulk of jokes in the show, which is like all the outrageous shit happening, and Torako will be like, "No, what is happening? Are you crazy?" And the other part is reference humor, and we have a lot of references in there, like Total Recall, very early reference when Torako thinks the realistic CG deer is Nokotan, and she imagines Nokotan just appearing from the deer, and the deer part just moves opens up and shows Nokotan's face, just like in Total Recall when Arnold removes that cyborg mask of the old lady that he's wearing. And
that I didn't pick up on.
We have a Terminator reference later when a hunter stalks Nokotan. And what I didn't expect was a Full Metal Jacket reference.
Yeah! Complete in English.
Yes, I did. I first wait, is this a Fate Stay Night reference? I am the bone of my soul, whatever. And I was like, this is the fucking Full Metal Jacket speech.
I was like, this man is just reciting the Rifleman's Creed. Mm-hmm. What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's the kind of reference humor you get. You also, they reference Disney at some point. Where there's like
you're playing with fire on that one.
You can't they want to reference Bambi, but the narrator's Torako interrupts before the narrator can fully say its name because she's afraid they get sued by Disney. Which, okay, they are afraid of Disney, but they can reference Smash Bros. In their board game episode, as if Nintendo's lawyers weren't just as threatening. Come on.
Who is less litigious between the two? Let's flip a coin.
Mm-hmm. Good question. But yeah, this is basically what you get in this. A bunch of weird mini gags and then Toroko reacting to it, and also a lot of reference humor, like the one that I just counted down.
We even have a setup for something in the second to last episode that they walk back immediately at the start of the final episode. It's like, oh, okay, so we weren't actually going to...
self-awarely walk back because the characters commented. Like, Toroko is like, wait, what was this ominous shit in the stinger for this episode? Don't you want to follow up on it? And they're like, no, doesn't matter.
Jesus Christ.
Like, Toroko is supposed to be the voice of the audience in all of this most of the time because she's the only one kind of reacting normally to this and also like asking the important questions that never get answered. There's so much what was the weirdest shit in this show, John, that you were like, okay, I did not see this coming and I can't make sense of it?
I mean, between the ball of antlers and like everything involving antlers, man.
Yes.
Like the tug of war that was just like, oh, thanks for pulling out my antlers. I really needed the help with that. It's like,
yeah, it's a tug of war, and then Nokotan is in the middle, and they pull at her on her antlers, and then she's the one who wins this for some reason.
Oh my god, dude.
Yes, it's just like. And of course, a lot of word jokes and everything, puns and stuff like that. Like there's this episode where Nokotan reveals that she has a banana stashed in one of her antlers for some reason, and then Torako responds with "bakana," and the narrator says "banana-des." Top shelf joke. I appreciate it. Yeah, she hides all kind of things in her antler, like. I think my favorite moment was when she took off the top of her head and from the inside you heard these terrifying voices filled with agony. And of course, deer crackers.
They're, oh my God, taking her head off. The first time she did that, I was like, I'm sorry? Mm-hmm. Excuse me?
Yes. I mean, she can just do that. She can take off either just the antlers or the whole top half of her head, like above her eyes.
The literal epitome of head empty, no thoughts.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, the head is not empty. There are suffering souls in there, apparently, stuck in eternal damnation, and also deer crackers. Maybe both are the same? Maybe the deer crackers are sentient, and they're crying because Nokotan is eating so many of them. Maybe they're alive.
Oh, no. Slow down. Slow down.
And that's why they're crying out when she opens her head, because, you know, she kills them, John. She destroys them. She destroys their souls.
Stop.
Yeah, that's what the show will do to you. That's the train of thought that you board and you ride it till the end of the cliff. But yeah, I don't even know what else we can say about this show. It's just it's so nonsensical. Like, I mean, we gave you already pretty much the insight of the main characters and what they do, and that kind of stays the same from beginning to end. Same for the side characters. And there are not that many recurring. Like, we have the club members, of course. And then we have the student council, and then a couple more. Like, there's an old lady that sometimes appears and does a thing. The homeroom teacher pops up here and there. Then the brother of one of the student council members sometimes. Even in the last episode, he's like, why am I the referee for this boxing fight? And the narrator is like, hey, it's the last episode. Everyone on deck, guy. It's like, yes.
So this show aired at the same time as the second season of Oshinoko. And I bring that up because Noko's voice actress, Megumi Han, plays Kana in Oshinoko. And they are very diametrically opposed characters to the point that I feel like... Okay, so the simulcast for Nokotan was weird because it aired on Wednesdays on an online service called Abema, but then it was aired on TV on Sundays. So for like the first 2-3 weeks, the simulcast was on Sundays. Weird, but sure. Then they switched it over to Wednesdays, which is the same day as Oshinoko.
Mm-hmm.
So hearing Megumi Han play these two wildly different characters back to back, I feel like altered my brain chemicals in a way that is not good.
Probably not.
Because it's like Kana is this very calm, for the most part, calm, cool, reserved. She has a goal in mind. She's going to become like a top tier performer and actress and all that. And then there's Nokotan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that would fuck with your head if you watch that back to back.
So like, Wednesdays were fun this season.
For all the wrong reasons. But yeah,
maybe for all the right reasons.
Or the right reasons. That's true. I still wonder, like, it feels like this is also maybe trying to be like an advertisement for this region of Japan. Like the mid-episode stingers show you tourism spots. Like it feels like this is a travel promo at certain points. Where it's like, hey, look at these beautiful places. Here are real photographs of this, and also realistic deer. And then, like you mentioned, the ED, where we see a lot of live footage from deer and all that stuff.
I brought this up on another Discord server, and I was like, what even is this show? And a friend was like, a promotional anime for vacationing in Nara Prefecture? And I'm just like, I can't argue that.
Yeah. The problem
there's no counter to that.
The one that kind of that kind of supports this assumption is the stuff we just mentioned, with there being a lot of realistic scenes in the ED, and also in the mid stingers, and also you learn a lot about deer and everything. Not all of these facts are probably true, but there's a lot of that in there that would advertise the region. But then you have the rest of the show, and that would actively steer me away from that region because it seems too crazy and dangerous. Like deer just wandering into the city, and maybe also into your clubhouse. And I mean, it could also be adorable, but also I don't want to get kicked by deer. Is that really a thing, that deer escapes from the zoo there all the time and you just encounter it, which could be nice, but also, And, there's some quite rambunctious deer aside from Nokotan in this show, and some of them are really threatening when they appear on screen. It's like, Chica, and, that's just, Chica. I mean, it happens with GPS too. Yes, the soundtrack goes wild in that regard. The soundtrack goes wild in general in certain parts. Like we have also in the final episode, I think because this Deer's Den Association thing is coming after Nokotan, we have this sports movie montage, this training montage with a lot of scenes that could be lifted from Rocky, and also there's like a riff on Eye of the Tiger in there, and that one Deer's Den guy looks like a mix of Zeppeli and Speedwagon from JoJo's for some reason. I guess that's also a reference joke.
I was about to say, I wonder, head scratch.
I don't know. Where some people, I mean, JoJo's was done by David Production, not by Wit. So I don't know if some people, there was some overlap, but it felt like it. So
it could be. Mm-hmm. I didn't dive super deep into like all of the staff, but it's entirely possible.
Yeah. I don't know who to recommend this show to. It's probably the biggest problem for me in being like, hey, is this a keeper? Is this something good for one episode? Or is this something you will enjoy all the way through? I enjoyed it. But also, like I said, a lot of the humor stays kind of the same. Like if you've watched the first episode, you've seen most of what the show has to offer. Like there's not any real development in there. Like it's a classic non sequitur gag manga in that aspect. Like if you want more of that, you'll have a good time. That isn't enough variety for you. This show might not be for you. So it's tough. Like I would say, if you enjoy the off-kilter jokes that are in there, like all the nonsense that is thrown at you, and you're like, oh, I just let myself get run over by this avalanche of nonsense, then you will have a good time. Like there's just so many weird shit in there. There's like the scene where Anko and Torako are fighting in front of the school, and there is like this energy, of course, always from Anko oozing out because she has the hots for her sister, and there's like just one passerby just remarking, "Hey, sister Yuri, I can dig it," and I cracked up so hard at that because it came out of nowhere and was just like, "That's this guy," and the subs did their part, of course, because I doubt because of the "I dig it," it was just like, "Hey, sister Yuri, I can dig it." It's like, what? What is happening?
You don't always have to say the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, but that guy did, and it was amazing. So there were a lot of little moments in this show that really made me laugh, and it was like, oh, this is just so stupid and so out there, and I didn't see it coming, and that's what I liked it for. I don't know if I liked it just for a lot of the stuff that it did in every episode. It was like, oh, okay, this is the same structure again. It's the same here. Nonsense with Nokotan. This is happening. This is happening. And after a while, that felt a bit stale for me because I felt like, okay, this is just a variation of what we had in the previous episode. It doesn't feel as fresh anymore. And it always feels...
I get that.
I feel like it's always Nokotan doing some shit with her antlers, or it's a weird deer thing happening. To be fair, that is what the show is about. It's just about deer nonsense. And then just Torako, instead of being like, I mean, she sometimes is, but she rarely is a proactive person in those situations. Like she's not a chaos catalyst like Nokotan is, or her sisters or whatever. But mostly Nokotan is the catalyst for all of this shit happening. And then just Toraka is standing by the sidelines, just like the viewer, and is like, what? And I would have wanted her maybe to be more of a part in that in certain aspects than she is, because she's just commenting on it. And that she's doing that for 12 episodes. So it's like, okay.
The manga is still ongoing, so maybe that changes this one. I don't know how much more variation they can throw in there.
Yeah, me neither. And I wonder, it felt like the show was aware by the end that this probably was just a one-time thing, and we're not going to get more of that, maybe. But also, who knows? Wit isn't big into continuations and just like to do a lot of one-off things. But also, they have done second seasons again. They have done second season of Ranking with of Kings, and I think they're doing Spy Family together with Cloverworks, and that has multiple seasons. I think so. There's that. But yeah, I just, the one that worked the best for me were just a lot of the jokes that were not necessarily related to what the main thing that the show does. I mean, I like the reference humor and I liked some of the outrageous things happening, but I wasn't like so crazy about this Torako being the straight man and reacting to everything with, oh my god, what is happening here? Because that is my reaction already. I don't need another character to ape my reaction to this. So I wanted something more from her character, I guess. But also maybe in a world where so much nonsense happens, you need a character like that who is the anchor of reality in this and tells you as the viewer that what you're seeing is not normal by any means. Otherwise, you might lose your mind when you watch something like that. I don't know. I feel like I'm grounded enough in reality that I'm well aware that all of that shit that is happening in the show is absolute nonsense, or most of it anyway. I mean, if I was in a situation as you were, where one of the characters was voiced in a different show and doing a complete different character, I might lose my mind more quickly. But other than that, I don't think I'm at risk of that happening. So yeah, it's a small thing of criticism, and in how much you can criticize a show like that. Either the comedy works for you and it doesn't. And that is the base thing here. Like, if you watch the first episode and you see what you see there and you're like, hey, I find this funny, then you will probably like the rest of the show and find at least one thing in every episode that you find funny. It doesn't necessarily have to be the big main thing that is happening. So Nokotan does nonsense, Koshtan reacts loudly to it. It doesn't have to be that. It could just be like a small reference that is thrown there that you find funny because it tickles your funny bone, or the one comment I mentioned earlier of that one guy who's apparently really into Cisco and Yuri. Whatever. Or, you know, then there was this little small joke by the end where Nokotan is saved by one of the two Gyaru girls of the school, and then narrator is like, hey, this proved the case of the deer friendly Gyaru, QED. It's just
so stupid.
Was there even a contention there? Like, were someone arguing that that deer friendly Gyaru don't exist? It's just, it doesn't matter. It was just funny to me personally. It might not be funny to you, but maybe you find something in there. And I feel like the first episode already gives you enough of a flavor of all of these kind of jokes that you find in later episodes that the rest of the show will make you laugh if the first episode makes you laugh. So I feel like that is the best recommendation I can give for this. John, I don't know about you.
I mean, I can't watch goofy stuff, like super goofy stuff like this all the time, but I feel like there's been enough space between this and Pop Team Epic that I was like, yeah, I'm willing to throw myself at this and just turn off brain. Dumb thing on screen. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
So that's the mentality I went into it with. Was this a good show?
Maybe.
Was it also a bad show? No. I think this was.
It was a show. It was
what it wanted to be.
Yes. It was one of the shows.
I'm willing to give this show a pass on that, but I also don't think. I also wouldn't go out and say, dude, this is essential viewing. No, I don't think that by any stretch of the imagination. I think this is a fun, you watch it, you're done. Cool. Yes. This was silly. I had fun.
Yes. And I doubt everything in the show will, like, there's a person where everything in this show works for you. But a lot of small bits and pieces in there might work for you. This is the opposite of the show is bigger than the sum of its parts, because I think some of the parts of it are more interesting than whatever comes together at the end. Maybe it's hard to put that into words, but it's like, hey, there's enough interesting bits and pieces here and there that are good, but maybe not the entire thing, because the entire thing doesn't do like. It's not an Akiba Maid War, for example. That's a comedy anime that we both loved, and that had so many different aspects to it that worked, and it had a plot progression. It had fantastic characters. It had incredibly funny jokes, a super witty, zany, and sharp as the sharpest knife humor, and was a fucking great parody of a lot of things. And in a lot of ways, I can also say that about Brave Bang Bravern. And, that Nokotan is not that. Nokotan is something that you can watch one episode of probably after you get home from work, and you laugh at some of the stuff, not all of it probably. And it's really just turn your brain off because it's so stupid. And it's just off-kilter, non-sequitur humor, and some of the stuff you will probably maybe not find funny, but maybe not all of it. And that's it. And weird shit. Like, there's an episode where Nokotan enables world peace due to making peace with the grizzly for the sake of America. And is the grizzly supposed to be Putin? I don't fucking know. It's just sometimes the show just was very intent on trying to break my brain. I don't think it succeeded, but it got close. It got close. So all I really know now, I think that the show tried to convey to me, that might be true, is that deer crackers are probably delicious to deer. And I'm pretty sure that is true. And nothing else is really confirmed or denied by this show. So if you want answers, if the first episode has you clamoring for answers to anything, like it's like, oh my god, what is actually going on? You won't get any answers. Nothing. So don't expect that. But if you had a good time for one reason or another, and you can get more of this nonsense, I feel like that's you can keep on watching this and have a good time with 12 episodes. John, where can people watch this?
They can watch it on Crunchyroll, and they can watch it on Amazon as well.
Yeah, interesting.
So before we go out, I just had to look up what is in deer crackers, and apparently it's just rice bran, wheat, and water. So enjoy eating your rice crackers, everyone. Apparently they're just very full of fiber. They'll help you go.
I mean, one of the characters mentions that they immediately have a super dry mouth when they ate it, right? So that fits.
Last thought is the show's a goof fest, but if you want something that is a quick watch goof fest that requires zero thought, the show's got you covered.
Nuts.
Ah.
And that is a wrap on the 160th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in this podcast is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to virt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Find us where all the podcasts live, but also check out animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Please leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice if you can. Follow us on the socials or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We'd love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. What's good?
Take care, everybody. Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
Vampires on YouTube. Blah. Dracula would never.
Glory to mankind.
And Man vs. Machine, now with less Arnold and more anime.